It's so amazing to see such a wonderful turnout tonight. A couple of weeks ago, we had lots of tickets available, and just in this very short period of time, the tickets went like crazy. And I know a lot of people that wanted to come that weren't even able to get tickets tonight. And it's a good thing that we're actually videotaping the performance or the presentations tonight so that people can check it out online as well. I'd like to say thank you so much to Bryce for that warm introduction, and to my co-speakers, Dr. Pelly and Kelly Young. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Shauna Page and FemMed for spearheading this event tonight, for having the desire and the motivation to do all that is involved to put this together. Between Shauna and her team, Kelly Strauss and Lisa Fielding, they have done an amazing job putting together the sponsor bags of the swag bags, $75 worth of amazing goodies, which I think everyone appreciates. And I'd like to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. I know my father is one of the token men that's here tonight, but I see a few other men in the audience, so we do have a little bit of testosterone floating around. But I know you're all very busy and have busy schedules, and so we appreciate your interest in coming out tonight to learn more about women's health issues and what we can do for prevention. I have an aunt that drove in from Gravenhurst. I have some friends that came from Fort Erie. So really appreciate you all making the effort to be here tonight. So I'm talking tonight about women and heart disease, which is one of my areas of interest and passion. As a woman myself, I'm keen on learning and doing whatever I can to take better care of my heart. We have heart disease in our family. I lost several grandparents to heart disease and various great aunts and uncles over the years. And when I was going into pharmacy school, and actually through what I learned in pharmacy school, is that heart disease is largely preventable. We just need to take very important steps to protect our hearts, to be good to our hearts, and to empower ourselves to make some of those changes that are critical for optimizing heart health. So tonight I'm going to be sharing some of my information with you. I collaborated, as Bryce mentioned, my latest book is called Saving Women's Hearts. And that book actually came about through a partnership with a good friend of mine, Dr. Martha Galati. We went to university together. We attended McMaster University back in the 80s. And I went into pharmacy, she went into medical school, and then cardiology. And we would always get together every year and have dinner and talk about what we were doing in our lives. And we decided that we wanted to collaborate and put our heads together and put a book together that would empower women about what they can do to prevent heart disease. Martha, although she's a cardiologist, she's very passionate about prevention as well, and has devoted her life and all her research to the prevention of heart disease in women. And myself as a pharmacist, people often think of their pharmacist as somebody just doling out pills and advice on medication, but my perspective is very different. I learned early on in pharmacy school and through what I was doing in my practice that while drugs are very important and do provide some life-saving treatments, they don't have all the answers. And there is so much that we can do from a holistic perspective to improve our health, whether it's through dietary changes, using nutritional supplements, lifestyle strategies such as stress management, not smoking. So the type of practice that I'm involved in is integrating those types of holistic therapies. Now, I've stepped a bit away from practice because I had a little baby boy a little over a year ago. His name's Phoenix, and he's the love of my life, good for my heart. But I have been spending a lot of time with him and not practicing as much in the pharmacy lately. But I've stayed very much involved with what I do professionally and trying to stay in touch with patients and understand their needs and what women want to know most. And I think what women want to know most is what's going to make them feel good, what's going to make them look good, what's going to keep them healthy and active and vital. I see a lot of people waving, they're hot. We're working on the AC, right? We are working on it, ladies. So hopefully cooler air is coming our way. So this is the audience participation part of my seminar. So get your pink and green cards out because I have a few questions that I'm going to pose to the audience. The first question for heart trivia is, a woman's lifetime risk of heart disease is 1 in 100. Is that true or false? Let me see your cards. Okay, most of you are correct. That is false. What do you think a woman's lifetime risk is of heart disease? Shockingly, it's 1 in 3. 1 in 3. So if you look at the woman to the right and the woman to the left, one of you three is going to have heart disease, and that's the unfortunate reality. So that is false. It's 1 in 3. Okay, true or false? Fish oil can improve multiple risk factors for heart disease. All right, lots of pink. Good job. That is very true. In fact, fish oil, as we'll talk about later in my seminar, can help improve various risk factors for heart disease by lowering blood pressure, cholesterol, improving triglycerides, reducing inflammation, and also reducing clotting. So that is true. Hormone replacement therapy can decrease heart attack and stroke. True or false? So we see kind of a mixed response here. I see a lot of green. I see some pink too. That is actually false. We used to think that, and in fact, when I went through pharmacy school, we were taught, and this was in the late 80s, early 90s, we were taught when women hit menopause, we need to get these women on hormones, synthetic hormones. We were given Premarin and progestin and all of these hormones because it was just thought that in menopause, your hormones decline. We've got to correct that by giving these synthetic hormones. We thought it would be good for women's hearts, good for their bones, and protective against other diseases. And then through many studies that came on later on, it was found out that these synthetic hormones were not doing our hearts any good, that they were actually causing some more damage than benefits in terms of increasing risk of heart attack and stroke, again with synthetic hormones, not bioidentical hormones. And I see Dr. Petal, he's going to jump out of his seat. No, it's not bioidentical hormones I'm talking about here, synthetic hormones. And as he'll talk about in his seminar, I think we were kind of misguided to think that giving women pregnant horse urine hormones was going to be good for us. We found out that that was not, in fact, necessarily compatible and ideal for our bodies. So that is false. Women should be screened for heart disease beginning at age 50. Is that true or false? Okay, very mixed response here. Most women don't see themselves at risk for heart disease until we get older. And it's true that our risk increases with age, but we need to be screened for heart disease beginning at age 20. 20. Now, who thinks of heart disease when you're at age 20? You're going to the doctor, you're going for your pap test, you're concerned about that, maybe breast health. We don't often think about heart health, but it is very important. And women, when they start going to their doctors for regular physicals, late teens or 20s, need to be screened. Know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol, talk about your family history. Unfortunately, a lot of forms of heart disease can go undetected until it's too late. And we hear stories in the media all the time where people drop dead, literally, of a sudden heart attack or stroke or some kind of other problem that they didn't know they had a pre-existing condition. So we need to get screened earlier. After a heart attack, a woman is more likely to survive compared to a man. After a heart attack. Okay, most of you are correct on that. I see mostly green, but I see a fair bit of pink. Here's the shocking reality, ladies. We are twice as likely to die. Twice as likely to die after a heart attack compared to a man. Why do you think that is? Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but let's hold that thought for a minute. So we are more likely to die, twice as likely to die, in fact. So why is that? Well, here are some of the reasons why heart disease is a woman's number one killer, why the incidence of heart disease has been increasing and continues to be a significant problem. While rates in men have been declining over the past few decades, women aren't doing as well. Well, the first reason is that women have largely been understudied with respect to heart disease. We used to study heart disease primarily in men because it was easier, because guys, their hormone levels tend to be stable, and because women go through PMS and menopause and hormonal fluctuations throughout the month, it was easier to study men and extrapolate the results to women. And it was thought that women were just smaller versions of men. And we found that that's not the case at all. In fact, there are a lot of nuances with respect to how our hearts work, the size of our vessels, how we perform under different testings, and how we respond to medications. So thankfully, since we had in the U.S., there was a female National Institute of Health director, and she really championed that research be done on heart disease in women, and that it was mandated that they actually be included in clinical trials. The second reason is that women often delay getting treatment. And why is that? because we're too busy taking care of everybody else. So, we dismiss those symptoms. We might think, it's anxiety, it's stress. I don't really have time to look into this. I've got a little discomfort here or there. Women might miss those early warning signs. They might have less overt symptoms. The classic symptom for a heart attack is still crushing chest pain, but women may also have more subtle symptoms, subtle pain in their neck, their face, their jaw. A lot of heart attacks in women are preceded by extreme nausea and fatigue. And so women may dismiss those symptoms. And when they do go to the emergency room, unfortunately, we are more likely to be investigated as having psychological issues, stress, depression, anxiety, versus having a real cardiovascular event. And my husband, who's a firefighter, has told me he has seen it in his work as a firefighter. When somebody calls 911, he says it's different the way if it's a guy versus a gal, how they're treated. He says, I've seen paramedics. If it's a woman, they're more likely to say, did you have a bad day? Are you stressed out about something? You're having trouble in your marriage? Those questions, but we don't ask guys those questions. They immediately get hooked up and assessed for cardiovascular episodes. So sometimes these symptoms may be missed by women, and they may be missed by their doctors as well. And sadly, women do not always receive the standard of care treatment. We know there are certain drug therapies and interventions that if they're done early on, they can save lives and improve prognosis. But sometimes women don't receive those standard of care treatments, and we are also less likely to be referred to cardiologists compared to men. So that's why heart disease remains a woman's #1 killer, but we can do something about that. So what do we need to do? We need to know the risk factors, which I'll talk about in a minute, and thankfully most of them are within our control. Get screened early, take action, and it's never too early or too late. Oftentimes I talk to patients that have had a heart attack or a stroke, and they feel doom and gloom, that this is going to be their fate, their destiny. They've had a heart attack, they're going to be on these medications the rest of their lives, and they're going to have another episode, and that's their destiny. And it's not the case. In fact, even if you've had a heart attack or stroke, if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, there's still so much that we can do that can have a positive impact on whether or not those risk factors manifest into further problems. So these are the risk factors that are modifiable. There's certain things that we can't do anything about. Age is one, of course. As we get older, our risk increases. Genetics, you may have a genetic predisposition, but we know now that your lifestyle factors can play an important role as to whether those genes get switched on or whether they remain inactive. So the things that we can do something about: smoking, of course, one of the largest, most preventable causes of death. No surprise, I'm sure everybody's aware that smoking leads to heart disease and many forms of cancer. High blood pressure, which is often known as a silent killer. Unless you have your blood pressure checked, you might not even know if you have high blood pressure. A lot of people go around with moderately elevated blood pressure, never realizing that there's a problem. So it's really important to get that checked and get it checked regularly. And if you get nervous in your doctor's office, or you're annoyed because you've waited for an hour and you're stressed out and then you get a high reading, maybe get your pressure checked at your pharmacy or get a home blood pressure monitoring cuff. High cholesterol is another issue that can often go missed. You may not realize you have high cholesterol unless you know what your situation is, and it's something that's easy to get checked. Cholesterol is not the only problem, but it's when cholesterol gets oxidized and forms plaques in the blood vessels and occludes the blood vessels, or you can get a plaque that ruptures. That is what leads to cardiovascular episodes. Diabetes. Most people with diabetes don't die of diabetes, they die of heart disease. In fact, 80% of diabetics die of heart disease. Having diabetes significantly increases your risk. However, if you have diabetes and you keep your blood sugar in really good, tight control, that can go a long way to cutting your risk of having heart disease. Carrying extra weight, of course, is a risk factor, so you want to try and achieve and maintain a lean body mass as much as possible. We're going to talk in the next few minutes a little bit more about stress and lack of sleep, which go hand in hand, and how that impacts us, and a lack of physical activity, which is another risk factor. So in terms of some of the nutritional strategies that we can make that can improve the health of our heart, the first kind of goes without saying: avoid processed fast food. We know that that food is not good for us. It may taste good, but it's usually loaded with very low quality ingredients, devoid of nutritional value, high in calories, high in refined starchy carbohydrates and salt and all of that stuff. Eating small, frequent meals with nutrient-dense foods. That's important, not just if you have heart disease or concerns about heart disease, but diabetes and so many other conditions. If you keep your blood sugar levels stabilized, your energy levels will be higher, you're going to feel better, you'll have more energy throughout your day. And we can do that as well by increasing our fiber intake. Most Canadians do not get nearly enough fiber in our diet. We just don't. It's difficult to get that 5 to 10 servings of vegetables a day, to get whole grains throughout the day. So if you're lacking in fiber department, you may want to look at taking a good fiber supplement, something high in soluble fiber. And we'll talk specifically about some of the heart-healthy foods that are good for your heart. And I've put together a list of my top 10 here. So starting off on the far left side, you've got beans. And beans are great because they are very high in soluble fiber. They're also rich in antioxidants. The darker colored the beans, the more antioxidants. And antioxidants, we've got our antioxidant guru, Bryce Wild, here tonight, who's written the book about antioxidants. And we know that antioxidants can play a very important supportive role in preventing LDL oxidation and some of the other adverse effects that we have due to increased free radical overload in our bodies. Next to that, we've got berries, and they're so beautiful, aren't they? The reds, the blues, and the purples. And what makes berries so wonderful is the actual plant pigments that are in berries. They're called anthocyanins, and they make them beautiful, these colors, these plant pigments, but they're also good for us inside. They help support the health of our blood vessels. They can help reducing LDL oxidation and even possibly reduce clotting. So add more berries to your diet. They're a great breakfast food. The next one is the little tiny seed you're looking at there, and that's actually chia seed. And chia seed is very rich in soluble fiber, not the chia pet, so you can't eat your chia pet, but it's actually the same species. You know the chia pet that was big in the 80s, chia? Well, chia, as it turns out, is a great source of soluble fiber, actually the richest plant source of omega-3 fatty acids. So it is a great food to add to your diet. It's even better than flaxseed or hemp seed in terms of its nutritional value and its composition. One tip, though, you have to add liquid to chia seed, because if you just try to eat the seed, you're going to end up with your teeth just caked with these tiny little seeds. So add it to your cereal, add it to your yogurt, put it in smoothies. You can even take a tablespoon of chia seed, put it in a little cup of water, come back to it in 5 minutes, and it actually can absorb 30 times its weight in water. So it's a tiny little seed, smaller than a sesame seed, but it absorbs a lot of fluid, and you can see it just forms a gel-like substance, and that will make you feel more full, good for your blood sugar, good for your cholesterol levels, and just rich in antioxidants and nutrients as well. Next on the menu is fish. And we know that we should be striving to have a couple servings of cold water fish a week, choosing fish that are lower in mercury and PCBs, preferably wild over farmed-raised fish in general. And the fatty fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which have a wealth of benefits for our heart. As I mentioned earlier on, they're good for lowering cholesterol. They can help specifically with triglycerides. They have a very significant impact on lowering triglycerides, reducing inflammation and clotting, and just great for the heart. Garlic, not good for your breath, but good for your heart. You know, my dad's nodding. My dad loves his garlic. We all love garlic. It's a great, just an absolutely amazing medicinal food. It's been used for thousands of years as a food and as a medicine. And for heart health alone, there have been several hundred clinical studies showing that garlic can offer some modest benefits for helping with blood pressure and cholesterol. Some specifically studied forms of garlic, which I'll talk about later on, can be used therapeutically if you do have issues with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's a few people coming in at the back. Don't be shy to come down if you'd like a seat. There's a couple seats over here at the side. Come on in, no problem at all. The next food that I have in the far left, actually drink, and that's green tea. And green tea is another one of these widely versatile foods that just offers so many benefits for health. But for heart health alone, there was a review that involved over 11 clinical studies, over 40,000 people, showing that people that consumed anywhere from 4 and above cups of green tea a day had a significantly lower risk of heart disease. That's pretty profound. So just think if you substitute some of the other beverages that you're having, if you're having pop or other things, maybe having a little bit more green tea, it's a great way to get those antioxidants, get the heart benefits. Green tea may also have a role in cancer prevention. It aids digestion. And if you'd like to give your metabolism a boost, maybe you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, green tea can also offer benefits in that department. It actually helps to crank up your metabolism a little. So green tea is good to add to the menu. Oats, which are rich in soluble fiber, so much so that they actually can make a heart claim on the package. So if you see Quaker oats and other types of steel-cut oats are really good. Very rich in soluble fiber, great breakfast food, very beneficial for lowering cholesterol levels. Olives, one of the keys to the Mediterranean diet. Olives are very rich in monounsaturated fatty acids. They are good for the heart. They can help lower LDL cholesterol. It's best when you're having olive oil to go for the extra virgin olive oil. Do you know what the difference is between the regular and the extra virgin? The extra virgin is actually made from the first pressing of the olive, so it has more antioxidants, more nutrients in it, so it's a better one to have. Next on the list is that group of vegetables that represents plant sterols. And plant sterols are compounds naturally occurring in vegetables. They're also in nuts and seeds. And what they do is they can help lower cholesterol levels. Very difficult to get enough through diet alone, though, and that's why you'll see a large number of foods in the grocery store that are now fortified with plant sterols. For example, you can see yogurts by Danone, Basil margarine, also Minute Maid. They have a Heartwise formula that has plant sterols added to it. And if you have 2 glasses of that orange juice or a serving of yogurt and maybe use the Basil margarine instead, you're going to get these plant sterols that can actually help to lower your LDL cholesterol. And last on the menu, I've got some soybeans. And soybeans and fermented soy foods, tempeh and miso, can offer a lot of benefits for lowering cholesterol, possibly for reducing clotting as well. It's better to have those foods versus soy powders and some of the other types of soy products, which we may think may not offer as many benefits as the fermented soy foods and the actual soybeans. Now, I think part of the issue with our society today, yeah, she says, sure, I'd like a garden salad, some fresh fruit, and a slice of tofu, carefully arranged to look like a cheeseburger and fries. You can't read it at the back. You know, the reality is that the cheeseburger and fries is on the menu if you want to have a cardiovascular episode. If you saw the documentary Super Size Me, it shows you how dramatically just even one meal can have, one fast food meal can have on the inflammation that's going on in your body and your various parameters of your overall health. It can be pretty profound. So an occasional fast food meal, no, it's not going to kill you, but if we can gravitate more towards some of these heart-healthy foods, some tofu, some vegetables and fruits, it's going to be a good thing for our heart. There are some foods, though, that are indulgent, that are very beneficial for heart health. And on the far left there, we've got coffee. Now, coffee we always think of as a bit taboo. And while it's true that coffee contains caffeine, if you have high blood pressure, that may raise your blood pressure if you're sensitive to caffeine. But for people that are not sensitive to caffeine, drinking coffee in moderation can actually be good for your heart. In fact, there was a review that was done of over 4 clinical studies and thousands of women that found that women that were drinking up to 4 cups of coffee a day had a 18% lower risk of cardiovascular episodes. So that's okay. Coffee does provide us with a significant amount of antioxidants. Avocado, often thought of as forbidden because avocado is richer in fat, but it's rich in good fat, monounsaturated fat, also high in soluble fiber, antioxidants, so you can add some avocados to your salad. Nuts, having a couple of handfuls of nuts a week have been found in clinical studies to lower your cholesterol levels. Again, they're often misunderstood because we think of nuts high in calories, higher in fat, and so people say, oh, I can't have nuts, but not the case. In fact, if you have some hazelnuts, some cashews, some almonds, some walnuts, they do provide a good amount of phytosterols, also soluble fiber, and studies have found they can lower cholesterol levels. Having a glass of red wine is okay. 1 glass for ladies, 2 for men. Yay! We all like our red wine, absolutely. Red wine is better than white wine, more antioxidants, but the beneficial effects of alcohol are that it can help to raise your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, and it can help to reduce clotting. But moderation is the key, because while a little bit is okay, if we have too much, that can actually raise your triglycerides and contribute to excess calories and weight gain. And last but not least is my favorite, which is dark chocolate. And the reason dark chocolate is so good for us, it gets back to those antioxidants, very high in flavonoids. And we want to be consuming the dark versus the milk chocolate, because milk chocolate doesn't have as much antioxidants. It has more saturated fat in it. And so you want to look for a chocolate that gives you about 70% cocoa solids. But moderation is the key. You know, while a little bit of chocolate is okay, too much can cause other problems, so we can't have too much chocolate. So I used to be a fitness instructor. I don't really teach fitness classes too much anymore. I don't have, my activity now is chasing my 16-month-old baby around. But exercise, I can't overstate the importance of exercise for heart health. And according to some of the most recent surveys, we're not getting enough exercise because we don't have time. And that is the reality, but we have to find time to build it into our schedule, because exercise can lower multiple risk factors for heart disease. It can improve your blood pressure, your cholesterol, improve blood sugar levels, reduce your stress levels, help you sleep better at night. The key is to aim for an hour of activity at least 5 days a week, and finding ways to integrate that activity into your daily routine. So perhaps that is going for a walk with a girlfriend, building in a couple 10, 20-minute intervals here and there throughout your day. You know, again, I chase my 16-month-old up and down the stairs and throughout the house. We go for walks. Just trying to build more exercise into your daily routine is going to go a long way to cutting your risk of heart disease. Stress is something that we can't avoid today. For me, stress was alleviated a bit on the way here because my father drove so that I could relax in the passenger side. Driving, I find very stressful. Parking in Toronto, how stressful is that? I know a lot of folks here were struggling finding parking tonight. Stress is everywhere, and it's one of these things that if we don't find better ways to manage our stress, it does pile up and it can overtake your life. So finding ways to dissipate and manage that stress can have is very, very critical today. And finding something that works for you is equally important. For everybody, it's something different. Deep breathing, visualization, perhaps it's going for a walk, spending time with a friend, doing something that makes you feel calm and relaxed. Because we know the reality is that stress increases blood pressure, cholesterol, triggers inflammation, and clotting. When do you think is peak time for heart attacks to occur? Morning, Monday morning. In fact, at 9 o'clock, that's right, that's the witching hour, right, Dr. Petal? That's right. My friends who are cardiologists as well, they say we call that the witching hour because that's when the peak heart attacks occur. When people are stressed out, whether they're battling traffic or just heading to work, it's stressful. So coping strategies are really important. We don't have time tonight to get into all of the things that I recommend, but if you do pick up my book, we have a whole chapter all devoted to stress and stress management techniques and ways that we can take the edge off stress. Supplements can help. B vitamins, known as your stress vitamins, green tea, L-theanine, which is an amino acid that produces calming and relaxation. It makes you feel more zen-like, so it's very effective and a lot better than some of the prescription medications that are unfortunately prescribed for stress. Prozac, and you know, the ironic thing is, when you go to the doctor because you're stressed out, women, more so than men, are more likely to leave that doctor's office with a prescription for an antidepressant or a tranquilizer. It's easier to get you out the door versus talking about stress management techniques, breathing, exercise, natural remedies. And I caution people against taking tranquilizers and antidepressants for stress because it's putting a Band-Aid on the problem, it's not addressing the problem, and sometimes these antidepressants can cause more problems in that they can affect your sleep quality, they can cause sexual dysfunction, which Kelly's going to be talking about a little bit later on, the ins and outs of sex and how we can have better quality sex life, literally. So antidepressants, as a pharmacist, I realize they have an important role for the management of severe depression, but should never be used as a way to deal with stress or anxiety because they can often worsen the problems and cause to a lot of other issues. It's really important to have awareness that our mind and bodies are connected, and I think we need to think of that ecosystem within our bodies and realize that our internal thoughts, the way we think, can have manifestations in our physical health. And that's shown to be true in so many clinical studies that have found that people that are optimistic, positive thinkers live longer. They are more likely to live to be 100 and beyond. So being positive, thinking positive thoughts, not only is that going to be good for your heart, but it can also help reduce your risk of a lot of other chronic diseases. The last area I'm just going to touch on very briefly, which goes hand in hand with stress, is sleep. Because what happens? We're stressed out. We don't sleep at night. Our minds are racing. We can't relax. Then we don't get a good quality sleep at night. And then the next day, we're tired and we're more susceptible to the effects of stress. It becomes a vicious cycle. So we have to address all of these different areas to really ensure optimal health and wellness. So sleep, if we're not getting enough, and the magic number is 6 hours. In fact, studies have shown that women that are getting less than 6 hours of sleep at night, sadly, are at greater risk of heart disease. Now, how many women get 7 or more hours of sleep at night? How many? Okay, there's about a quarter of you, 25% maybe. Okay, we really need, we're not doing ourselves any disservice by, or any service by packing in more into our days and leaving less time for sleep. Sleep is not just a passive state. It's when our body regenerates, recuperates, we produce different hormones and chemical messengers in the night, and studies are clearly showing that women that are not getting enough sleep are increasing, upping the ante for heart disease. So we need to spend more time in that department. Very quickly, I'm just going to mention a few nutritional supplements to consider for heart health. Multivitamins and antioxidants as the foundation of your supplement program. Fish oils, as I mentioned earlier on, if you're not getting enough in diet, you may want to consider taking a supplement. I recommend fish oil supplements for most of my patients. It's very difficult to get enough omega-3 fatty acids through diet alone. Coenzyme Q10, you'll often find that combined with fish oil, and coenzyme Q10 is a very important antioxidant for heart health. It's actually involved in energy production in all the cells of our body, and it can be depleted through various medications and other reasons. So coenzyme Q10. Niacin, as Bryce mentioned, is good for giving us a niacin flush and putting you into a menopausal type state, but we do use it therapeutically if we're looking to raise somebody's HDL and lower their cholesterol levels. And I mentioned plant sterols already. Aged garlic extract, it's a clinically studied form of garlic. It is odorless, so you won't get the garlic breath, so that's something to consider. When it comes to supplements, make sure you talk to somebody before you just self-select. It's really a good idea to talk to your pharmacist, your doctor, somebody knowledgeable in nutritional supplements, because even though we think of these products as natural, sometimes they can have interactions. In some cases, we could be taking a prescription drug, which could deplete us of certain nutrients, or in some cases, there are negative interactions. So I always advise people never stop your medications because you're taking a natural product. Sometimes we can take these in harmony, and sometimes we do need to be cautious in that department. So I know I've gone over a few minutes, so at this point, I will bring Bryce back up to the stage to I think we're going to give a little book giveaway next. Thank you.